Hey, what's up everyone? How's it going? This is Watch, and in this video we'll be doing a direct head-to-head smartwatch comparison between the all-new Apple Watch Sport Edition versus the LG Watch Urbane that just came out. So if you're interested in seeing how these two compare against each other in terms of their advantages and disadvantages that each smartwatch presents, this is a perfect video for you. So let's see which one has the most to offer and which one is right for you. Now, in terms of the build materials, both watches are made out of extremely high-grade materials. Basically, on the Apple Watch side, we're using aluminum construction if you get the Sports Edition, and on the LG Urbane, it's using a stainless steel chassis that comes in two different finishes. One is a silver natural stainless steel finish. The other one is a gold finish. We have, obviously, the gold version, as you can see over here, which definitely looks a little bit classy. Now, obviously, you can get a gold version of the Apple Watch, but it is a real gold watch, 18 karat gold to be exact, and it's definitely going to cost you somewhere in the range of 5-figure digits, which is a huge chunk of change to spend on a consumer electronic device. But keep in mind that it's more of a piece of jewelry than anything else. Now, physically speaking, you can see that the LG Watch Urbane is quite a bit larger than the 38mm version of the Apple Watch Sport that we have, which measures about 38.6 millimeters by 33.3 millimeters. The LG, being a circular device, is about 46.4 millimeters in terms of its diameters, but the actual body is about 52.2 by 45.5 millimeters in terms of its overall dimensions. Now, even if you get the 42mm version of the Apple Watch, it's still going to be quite a bit smaller than the LG Watch, and that's probably one of my biggest issues with the LG, is that definitely kind of likes to stick out a little bit more than I like, especially if you want something discreet on your wrist. In terms of thickness, there's not a huge difference between the two. Basically, we're looking at 10.9 millimeters on the LG, and the Apple Watch is about 10.5 millimeters. It's about 72 grams in terms of its overall weight if you get the Sports Watch Edition with the sports band, and the LG is a little bit lighter at around 66.5 grams. In terms of durability, both watches are fairly good. They both have scratch resistant glass on the front face. They're both water resistant to some extent. The LG is certified for IP67, so it's both dust and water resistant. The Apple Watch is also fairly water resistant. You can fully submerge it for a couple of minutes in shallow water without having any serious issues. Now, moving forward, let's talk about the strap options we have on both smartwatches. The LG Urbane has actually a universal standard for 22mm straps. It comes stock with a leather strap that has a little bit of stitching on the side. It looks very classy, and this tanned version matches with that gold look very nicely as well. But again, if you don't like this strap, you can opt for a whole bunch of different straps that are available in the marketplace right now. It basically uses the 22mm standard, and it's fairly universal in terms of its interchangeabilities. In terms of comfort, the LG I don't have any major issues with. The only thing is sometimes you don't have the right notches on the strap itself to find the perfect fit where the watch won't slide too much, but that's more of a strap issue than really anything else. Now, on the Apple Watch side, they're using a completely proprietary strap system, which works really great. It's a very slick interface that slides in and out of the watch body, and it's using a magnetic latching system that works really easy, and there's no problems in terms of changing and swapping out different straps. The only problem is the straps themselves are right now mostly available from Apple. They're charging an arm and a leg for some of these straps that have a little bit of metal on them, or some of these straps that are more kind of design oriented. The one that you get with the stock Apple Watch Sport Edition is not too bad. It's very comfortable on the wrist. It's sweat resistant to some extent, so it's great if you're going to do any kind of physical activities with it, and it's probably the one that I would recommend for most people starting out. And really, I have no major issues with the strap system themselves. The only problem is the pricing, as I mentioned, and hopefully that will be solved later on with third-party manufacturers making different strap options for the Apple Watch. But right now, if you want a fancy strap, it is going to definitely cost you. Now, let's start with the control interfaces we have on both of the two smartwatches. Now, starting with the LG is fairly standard in terms of its input interface. Basically, we have one large power standby button on the side. It's very similar to the experience you get with the previous generation LG G Watch R, as well as the Moto 360. You have a full capacitive touchscreen, which is fairly responsive and has a decent amount of capacitive points, so very accurate in terms of its touchscreen response. Furthermore, you also do have a microphone on the LG, so you can use the OK Google system to do certain voice commands. And new to the LG Watch Urbane is the gesture control feature. So the cool thing is, if you get different notifications, you can actually scroll through the different notifications by flicking your wrist up or down and kind of changing the direction of your scroll. So definitely a convenient feature that I found quite useful when trying to do a whole bunch of different things at once, where I didn't want to use my other hand to scroll through my notifications and to control my phone and things like that. So definitely a nice little touch that LG has put on there. Now, there's a whole bunch of different input methods on the Apple Watch. It has voice control, capacitive touchscreen like the LG, but the big thing that I love about it is the fact that it has that digital crown interface, which is a pleasure to use and something completely unique that I haven't seen before. So just for the digital crown alone, I think this is probably a better interface to navigate and control a smartwatch, because the touchscreen isn't always the best and accurate, especially when you have such small screens to begin with. And sometimes if you have large pudgy fingers like me, a digital crown definitely makes navigating through a tiny interface a little bit more easier. The other cool thing about the Apple Watch is that it is a force touch capacitive touchscreen. So it's a regular capacitive touchscreen, but if you press it with a little bit more force, you can enable third click features, something similar that you found in the latest generation of MacBook trackpads. So that's definitely neat technology that some applications certainly will take advantage of. Now let's move on to the displays we have on both these two devices. Now the LG Watch Urbane has a 1.3 inch full circular display. It's using OLED technology just like the Apple Watch, so the blacks are very good. It's also fairly usable in super brightly lit conditions, especially if you have the brightness turned all the way up. Now in terms of resolution, it's about 320 by 320, giving a PPI count of 348 PPI. On the Apple Watch side, if you get the 38mm version, it has a native resolution of 340 by 272, giving it a PPI count of about 290. Now, if you do get the 42mm version of the Apple Watch, the resolution goes up slightly, giving it a PPI count of about 302. But both of them do have a little bit of aliasing issues here and there, especially if you're taking a look at a lot of angular lines and things like that. But it's not going to be a huge deal. Now, one thing to keep in mind, that some apps on Google Android Wear that the LG Urbane runs on is designed for a square display, and because it's a circular display, some of those apps will have information cut off in the corners because of that circular display. But I haven't had any issues. Most of the apps that you're going to need work perfectly fine with the circular display, and it's the same scenario for any device that has a circular screen on Android Wear. Now, in terms of sensors, both of these two smartwatches again have a fairly similar array of different sensors. So you're looking at accelerometers and gyroscopes on both of them. They also have a heart rate monitor on both of the watches as well. So that's great if you're going to use them for any kind of physical activities where you want to monitor your heart rate. The Apple Watch goes as far as monitoring your heart rate in the background, so it can monitor how you're doing throughout the day automatically. Now, that does drain a little bit of battery life, so for some people they might want to turn that feature off. Now, furthermore, I do like the haptic feedback system that we have on the Apple Watch. It gives you a little bit of a different sensation that you would feel with traditional haptic feedback systems, such as the one that you're going to find on the LG Watch Urbane. Essentially, the difference is when you get a notification on the LG Watch and it's in the vibration mode, it's just going to vibrate like it does with any other device, and you're going to hear that vibration. But with the Apple Watch, it's still going to vibrate like what we found on the LG, but it's going to be a little bit quieter, and it's going to give you a slightly different sensation, emulating that somebody has actually tapped you on your wrist. So it's very interesting, and with some of the communication aspects of the Apple Watch, you can actually send different taps and even your heartbeat to some of your favorite contacts that are also wearing Apple Watches. So pretty interesting feature there. I don't know how useful it will be, but the haptic feedback system is very cool nonetheless. Now, internally, what powers both watches are running on fairly different architectures. Basically, the Apple Watch is using a custom S1 processor. It's using the PowerVR graphics chip, and it has about 8 gigabytes of internal memory, versus the LG Watch Urbane is using a Qualcomm Snapdragon 400 quad-core processor that's clocked about 1.2 gigahertz and about 4 gigabytes of internal memory. So it really doesn't matter what's inside these two devices. Basically, what you need to know Both are very fluid and very dynamic. The LG Watch can struggle a little bit if you play a lot of different games on Android Wear right now, with the load times not being as fast as I would like it to be, but it's pretty usable nonetheless when things get going. Now, the Apple Watch has a whole bunch of different features, and I think the Watch OS that runs on the Apple Watch platform is really fluid and very smooth, and the internal processing has no real limitations that I have come across at this point. Things feel very snappy and responsive and extremely fluid and dynamic to use. Now, in terms of connectivity, both are using a Bluetooth 4.0 as well as Wi-Fi technology, so they both have their built-in antennas, so you can get things like basic information about weather, even if you're not tethered to your smartphone, although you're still going to need an Android phone or an Apple Watch respectively to make things work and to make all your notifications accessible to the watch. So that's a necessity on both platforms. And speaking of that, let's get down to the compatibility requirements that you have to meet in order to make these things usable in the first place. Basically, on the Apple Watch side, you need an iPhone 5 or newer that's running iOS 8.2 or later. The LG Watch Urbane is a lot more flexible in terms of compatibility options. Basically, you need an Android phone, so there's a list of thousands of phones that will work with the LG Watch straight out of the box, which definitely makes the LG Watch Urbane a little bit more accessible to many more people that already have an Android phone that is fully compatible to work with that watch, versus the Apple Watch, if you don't have an iPhone, you can't really use it. Now, winding down, let's talk about one of the most important things about any smartwatch, and that's battery life. The LG has double the capacity of the Apple Watch in terms of battery capacity, about 410 milliamp hours versus 205 milliamp hours on our Apple Watch Sport. And basically what I did to test out both of these two smartwatches is I used them for a couple of days, about 2 weeks to be exact. And basically what you guys are going to be looking at is my average day-to-day score on each Apple Watch. Now, keep in mind that both watches are fairly different in terms of architecture, in terms of app design, and all those things. So there's tons of variable in this, but this is more a real-world test of how I use my smartwatches, and I basically had the same behavior patterns on both smartwatches as close as possible. And with that said, here are the results over here. Basically, I got about 10 hours, 18 minutes on average after about 7 days of usage on the Apple Watch, versus about 14-hour, 30-minute mark on the LG Watch on average. And again, it fluctuates from day to day, but these are the average scores across a 7-day time period. So definitely you can see that the Apple Watch is not as good as the LG. The LG can definitely get you throughout the day, no problem. And if you're a little bit careful with it, you can probably get a day and a half to 2 days. Although both of them you're going to charge anyways every night, but there are going to be some times where the Apple Watch will die on you, especially if you have long work days and things like that. You can turn off things like heart rate monitoring, and as well as put it in a battery saving mode where it reserves the power a little bit better, and you'll get definitely a couple of hours there. But if you use it just regular basis, the Apple Watch is definitely not the best in terms of battery performance. Now, the last thing I want to mention is the price point. Now, in terms of the base model specifications, both watches actually start around $350, and the prices always fluctuate depending upon where you are in the world and shipping costs and things like that. But generally speaking, at the base model price, the Apple Watch Sports retails for about $350, and I got my LG Watch Urbane for around $350 as well. Now, at the end of the day, you can spend up to like $20,000 on the Apple Watch, which I really don't think will be worth that amount of money, because it's mostly a piece of jewelry if you get the Apple Watch edition with that 18 karat gold spec. But really, I think in most circumstances, the navigation interface is better on the Apple Watch side. I love the digital crown aspect of it, but there's really nothing wrong with the LG Watch Urbane. It does everything that you would want your smartwatch to do, and the battery life is better as well. So definitely check out both smartwatches. Hopefully this gave you some sort of direction to go with, and to kind of make up your mind in terms of which platform is best suited towards your personal needs. But other than that, guys, that's really it. Definitely check out the channel. We have some more smartwatch content coming, and there's lots on the channel right now, so definitely check out some of that stuff if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you later. Take care.